And here we go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Royal Blood, we have our South Korean Protoss player. Currently teamless, but he just took down Solar and he just took down Ragnarok. The other only two high-tier Zerg players in this region, in this country. Again from South Korea, it is Classic. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Royal Blood, we have his opponent. We have the... Oh, I should fix this. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Z Gaming. It is Dark. So Classic, this very tournament, Classic has brought down Solar. He's brought down Ragnarok. The only player that has escaped his might has been Dongre-gu. Dongre-gu was taken down earlier by Gumiho, if I'm not mistaken. Dongre-gu was able to avoid the wrath of Classic. But outside of those, it's Dark and that's it. Su's not really too active, unfortunately. He's not really playing too much StarCraft nowadays. Dark is the final boss, the best Zerg player in South Korea. But clearly Classic, he's got some fire PvZ, some cheesy PvZ as well. To be fair, it's been quite cheesy, very cheesy. But how will that fare against Dark this week? Because they face off week after week, every week, almost every week. Classic versus Dark. It happens somewhere in one of these tournaments. ESL Asia, ESL Americas, Kung Fu Cup, KSL. But which way will it go this time? See in the chat. All the grapes, all the grapes. Well, for the time being, we do have a hatch gas pool opener here from Dark. Nothing too crazy. He's going to be transferring his workers over. He's focusing on that link speed, then pulls out of gas. Likewise, Classic goes for his gate expand as well. So pretty economic opener so far. Even though we've seen a lot of cheese out of Classic today, a lot of all-ins, a lot of two-base all-ins, this is the most standard opener. And we saw something similar in Game 1 against Ragnarok, if you remember. Classic, he was just testing the waters, he was just feeling things out before he really ramped things up. So likewise, we're seeing that here and now against Dark as well. As Dark does, he just delays his third base a little bit here as he saturates his bases. Now has that third on the way. I see in the chat. Dark and Ragnarok, they merged to form Darknarok. Aye. That's a interesting kind of... In my mind, Frost, I'm thinking of Darknarok is Dark just riding Ragnarok. It's on his back. Not that kind of riding, the other kind of riding. Aye. He's got his harness on, is what I'm saying, He's on his saddle. Very interesting image. As we're getting into this, and oh boy, again, pretty standard stuff from Classic. He's going to a second gateway. He's setting up for a third base. This time his third should be saturated, so nothing too wild to kick things off. First Oracle gets across the map, is going to be threatening that third, natural, third, both, either or. But Dark is in position. And, oh! Was that scouted? Classic has not seen the Roach Warren. This is a very early Roach Warren thrown down by Dark, especially considering it's up against a Stargate opener. What was this? This was like a 3-minute 40 Roach Warren, or 3-minute 50 Roach Warren. Sub 4 minutes is what I'm saying. And anything sub 4 minutes is, again, pretty aggressive. 3 Overlords are on the way, and there we go. Roaches are coming out. Dark is looking to waddle the queens across the map. He's going for a Roach all-in. Oh boy. And this is how Dark plays ZvP. Now the queens are being scouted by these oracles, so that's already a big tell. The oracles are dipping in towards that third base. They're going to be able to roast up some of these drones. No, actually not a single one, but the roaches have been spotted, and now back at home, Classic has to prepare. There we go. Lings, roaches, queens, everything is being rallied across the map. Classic is throwing down shield batteries now, but these shield batteries, they feel a little bit late. As Dark is already here. Dark, you know what happened? He was watching the stream. Dark saw what Classic did to his fallen brethren, to Ragnarok, to Solar. He was like, nah, mate. None of that. Not here, Papi. As the Lings, they come in, they get a surround on these Adepts. 3 Adepts are going to be going down immediately. The Biles will connect on the shield batteries. We will have an overcharge. But the shield battery is going to go down to the Biles. A couple of Stalkers coming in to reinforce, but again, there's just not really too much to support them. The cannons fall one after the other. The Stalkers are wedging themselves quite nicely. We do have more reinforcements coming in from behind. But alas, the third base has been broken. The natural also being laid siege upon. Oof. And with that, Classic, actually, Darky doesn't care about the third. He wants to go for the kill. He wants to go for the natural. He is all in, of course. And there it is. GG gets called. There's just not enough to defend. Dark will take game number 1. GG. And Dark saying, mate, you want to all-in some Zerg players, mate? I'll show you an all-in, papi. And unfortunately, Classic, it took him too long to recognize what was going on. His oracles, they saw the queens, but that wasn't enough. Seeing the queens was not enough of a tell, at least for Classic. When he attacked that third base, I don't think he actually saw the roaches as they popped out of the eggs. I don't think he saw them, which is why we saw those shield batteries quite delayed at the third base. And if he had realized how all-in his opponent was, it's possible that maybe Classic gives up on the third and just defends the natural instead. And if that were the case, then maybe he probably would have had a lot more success defensively even. The chat's catching up. Yeah, with that, Dark takes the first game, but it's a best of 5. Plenty of games ahead of us, and Babylon can kind of favor all-ins, can favor aggression because of how small it is, but now we're moving on to a much larger map. Here we go. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Altitude, we have the South Korean Protoss player. Currently teamless, currently down to this series, but not out. It is Classic. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Altitude, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player representing CranKy Gaming. It is Dark. Pulling off a nice all-in. Waddling the queens across the map, the roaches, the lings as well. Asserting himself in game 1. Here in game 2, going for a 15 hatch. Sorry, it was a 14 hatch into a 15 pool, I imagine. Interesting stuff here from Dark. We saw that from Ragnarok earlier, if you recall, on Neo Humanity. So, likewise, an interesting variation here of the early hatch timings, making sure that he doesn't get forced to take some kind of weird hatchery out there on the map. So a 14-15 here. And now that we're on Altitude, again, it's a much larger map. It's a lot more difficult to pull off those all-ins. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone try to waddle queens across Altitude. It's doesn't work out quite well, at least not without a highway, which does require the lair. So again, no, the likelihood of Dark going for that kind of all-in is a little bit lower, but we can see other forms of aggression, you know, like Nidus play is probably going to be a big one here, potentially from Dark. As Ragnarok does get into his Gate Expand, Gateway, into his Nexus, into his Cybercore. A very economic opener here from Classic. And we'll be keeping our eyes specifically on the gas count and the lair timing as well. We'll see if Dark pulls out of gas after he starts link speed, or if he continues mining gas. If he does, then that will be a massive sign of aggression once again. And I'll be honest, I imagine Dark does want to be aggressive because I don't think he wants to go to the late game on Altitude. I don't think Dark wants to play against Skytoss on Altitude. As Classic is going to be going for that Stargate opener. To be rallied across the map. And there we go. Link speed is started, and Dark does pull out of gas completely here. So it looks like, again, a pretty standard stuff. Third base should be on the way momentarily as well. Everything looking pretty normal from Dark. When was the last time I saw a normal game out of Dark? It's a good question. And I'm not saying this will be one. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm thinking out loud. We'll see. We'll see. Stark is just going to be saturating his natural as well as we speak. Classic going to be active on the map with a couple of adepts. Going to be looking to take control of those Nagas, move out with his oracles, and really assert himself. Now, when it comes to altitude, because it's so large, kind of like Neo Humanity, if you remember, Classic took full advantage of Neo Humanity and rushed into Skytoss, rushed into carrier production of disruptors. Because he showed us that on Neo Humanity, I think that may be his plan here on altitude as well, just because it's so large, because you can wall off and defend some of these bases, these 4 bases relatively easily. Classic may be looking to flex his late game once again. Would make sense. As Classic is getting his third base up and running, we have our Lings rushing across the map as well to try and punish it and deny it. But the Oracle is kept at home. Dark just forcing the activation of the Pulsar Beam. Adepts ready to dive in at a moment's notice. But with the power of these Adepts and Oracles, this third base should be safe and sound for Classic. Likewise, he's getting into a Forge and a Twilight Council, so this is going to be for a Blink and +1 follow-up. Again, standard stuff out of Classic. Meanwhile, the Adepts are going to be shading on in. One drone does go down. The Oracles come in from behind as well. They're going to be able to pick off a couple more of these, but the Queen's target fire is just a little bit too good. Only 2 drones. Pretty acceptable damage here from Dark. And he is accepting a normal game state. He is going into +1 melee. Let's go. It's actually been a really long time since I've seen Dark play like standard. The reason why I say that is that we've seen a lot of Dark versus Hero these past couple of months, and every single time they're just all in each other, like game after game. Like we have like Proxy Hatch and, you know, Nidus, Link Queen Nidus all-ins and Roach all-ins. Like they get very aggressive when they face off against each other. So I appreciate that we're kind of slowing down a little bit here and we're getting a little bit more out of these 2 players. Overlord is going to get sniped. Back at home, Dark, he's just getting into his 4th, getting a Macro Hatch, working towards his Roach Warren and +1 melee. Again, everything is just leading towards a more straight up game here as Dark is working on 4-base saturation. Now, I may have to eat my own words, depending on whether or not Dark cuts workers at 66, but he's going for a 2nd Evo chamber as well, not just 1. So with this, he should be like going up to 4-base saturation. Even, especially with this Baneliness as well, I don't think he's going to be cutting workers and staying on a low worker count here to facilitate like a maxed out Roach army. So here we go. Classic is going to be pushing out. This is going to be hitting eventually with Blink and with +1. Dark has to be careful about that. He is currently working on his mass Ling army as we speak. There's +1 carapace on the way. Oh, interesting. You have my attention. Okay, so I've seen Dark do this on Neo Humanity before. We had the Lings coming from behind. They're going to be getting the full surround as well. Oh my god, Blink isn't done! No, the anti-timing! Classic is going to lose everything. Classic will lose every single unit. Blink finishes after the fight ends. Ay, ay, ay. Classic a little bit too cavalier, just overextending, hitting too early. And he loses everything. And now Dark, he can just flood Lings. And because he's going for +1 carapace, he's going for ultras. Like, he's going for a hive. He's just going pure Ling. Ling Bane into hive tech. We have seen Classic do this before on Neo Humanity. Doing it here on Altitude makes a lot of sense as well. But Classic, he loses all map control, all map presence. He's stuck at home. Dark just making sure that there is no 4th base as he checks both 4th base locations. Behind this, Baneling Speed is on the way, Hive on the horizon as well to get into Adrenal Glands and to eventually get into those Ultras. Again, even though we did have a safety Roach Warren in case it was Stargate into Glaives, but we don't really need this Roach Warren, not anymore. Know where we're going. We're going to the moon, Papi. Oh. As the Stalkers are moving out, the Lings are coming in from behind. Oh my god, once again, the Surround Classic forced into a corner. And once again, Dark, just his army movement, his army control is just so damn good, forcing another Blink, just chasing Classic all the way back home. Meanwhile, the Hive is done, by the way. Show us, yep, there it is. Ultra Cavern. Ling Bane into Ultras. It can be difficult to pull off, but because he has so much room here on altitude, he's just making this work wonders. As Dark denies the 4th, containing Classic to 3 bases. And now he's just working on his own 5th base. Jesus. There's Adrenal Glands. Once the Ultra Cavern is done, we should be getting into Kaida's Plating. And he's going to be facing off against double Disruptor production, but we have the tech to get into Vipers if we really need it. Oh, here we go. The Disruptors are now out. They have been scouted by Dark. He knows. Which means we should be seeing some Viper tech. We're getting into Fungals instead, which can work against the Blink Stalkers. Ultras are on the way. 3-3 as well. First Nova does get wasted, doesn't quite connect with anything. At the same time, Classic, he was distracted. This 4th base is never going to get up and running. Let's be real here. The Lings, they do hit the front wall, but the wall is a wall. That was a cancel, not a kill, thankfully for Classic. Oh! Oof. Classic does get a good Nova off on those Lings. But Dark doesn't care. Like, he's trading Lings for bases. Behind this, do have those Infestors, the Ultras, the old classic Ultra skin as well. You love to see it. Thin boys. Not thick, unfortunately, but, you know, they have their own aesthetic. It's okay. They've been hitting the gym. Pure muscle on these Ultras. As Classic is looking to push onto Creep, but Dark can set up another surround. Oh, boy. As I'm sure Dark wants Classic to push up this ramp further onto Creep as Dark sets up that surround. Oh boy. And here we go. Show us the Fungals. Novas are going to be going off. They will connect with the Infestors, but we land the Fungals, and that's going to be it. GG gets called, and Dark takes game number 2 and is 1 game away from becoming this week's champion. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, GG. I see the chat catching up. That was the antiest of all time. It was. It really was. Oh my god. Classic. He just needed to wait for Blink, and it all just snowballed from there, right? Like, that didn't win Dark the game, but it just gave Dark so much breathing room for Classic to throw away his Stalker army, to push up onto Creep without Blink, and for Blink to finish by the time the fight ended. Like, oh, that was so heartbreaking. Oh god. GG, well played. But it allowed Dark to do something that he doesn't get to do too often, and that is in ZvP to go just pure Ling Bane. I mean, I say Ling Bane, he didn't even make any Banelings, let's be real. It was just Ling into Ultra. Into Infestors, of course. And if you're out there, don't try that on smaller maps. It's really difficult to get away with. But on a map like Altitude, yo, go crazy. As we are going to be getting into game number 3. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have the South Korean Protoss up against the wall. Down heavily in this series, has to fight back here and now. It is Classic. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent, the South Korean Zerg player representing DragonKy Z Gaming. 1 game away from becoming this week's ESL Open Cup champion. It is Dark. boy. As Dark does go for the 15 hatch. This time I believe this wasn't a 14, this was a 15 hatch. We do see probe scouts coming out, but the hatchery has already been thrown down. Dark is ready for this. Beautiful. Or was it a 14 hatch? It was one or the other. Regardless, the hatchery was thrown down quite early on. It is going to be a hatch gas pool in the end. So nothing too crazy, just Dark making sure that he is, you know, comfortable with his base layout. As these early hatch timings have been quite trendy recently. Very trendy. Oh. And the ball is in Classic's court. You know, he is the one who has to do something crazy now in this series. He needs to bring this back. And on Ancient Cistern, it's going to be difficult. Second largest map in the map pool. 2-base all-in, I don't think is going to fare well on this map. Glaives, maybe. I think Glaives has potential, but because Dark got his natural, suddenly Glaives is that much more unappealing. Just because if we realize what's going on, we can wall off here at the natural and deny any kind of Glaives at all. Or any of Adepts at all. Oh boy. Alright. Here we go. Classic. He sees your base set up, and he's like, mate, I'm gonna knock you down anyway. Let's go. It is gonna be a Twilight Council opener. Now, this could be for either Glaive Adepts, or it could be for a DT opener. But if Classic does pull out of gas, then it should be for Glaives. We'll see what gets accompanied with this tech. And also, because he hasn't pulled out, if he does go for Glaives, this could be for an all-in. This could be for 6 gate. Oh, here we go. The Robo is going to be thrown down. Just waiting for a little bit more gas. Meanwhile, back at home, Dark, he is just going to be getting his third base up and running. This feels like the Dark Shrine, not going to lie. We'll see the Overlord is diving on in. There's not much to stop him. We do have 3 gates being set up here. Dark does pull back in the end. Did I say 3? I meant to say 4. There we go. It is going to be Glaive Adepts. This was actually pretty delayed. You can see Classic has a lot of gas. So it looks like Classic was maybe holding off because of this Overlord, but because the Overlord pulled back, then he's still committed to the Glaives. Hard to say here. Hard to say. As I want to believe that the delay on this upgrade was intentional. Regardless, it is going to be Glaive Adepts. Dark is looking to try and piece this together. Now, this isn't all in by any means. It is only 4 gates, so we can expand behind this. You can take a third base. The other added feature is that even if you do wall off here at the natural, because we have a prism, we can go into the main base and we can warp in directly into the main of Dark as well. As Dark has realized what has been going on. The Adepts have been spotted. Oh, a lot of Lings are going to be going down here, actually. Oh, they will barely get both Adepts, and Classic is going all in. Okay, so Dark reacts with a Baneling Nest. So Ling Bane, it's a risky move, but it can clean up Glaive Adepts. And why I say Classic is going for an all-in is because he doesn't get it. He delays his third, but he's going straight for the Immortal production already. So because we're already starting our Immortal, this kind of tells us that Classic, he himself doesn't even feel too confident about these Adepts. So here we go, the Adepts are diving on top of the Queens, and he will be able to get one of them. But the Lings, they get a full surround as well. Oh god, the Shade was late. So many Adepts are going to be going down. 2 will make it through, but there were Banelings waiting for him. And this has fallen on its face. This is not going to find any damage at all. Dark is going to be able to saturate his third, and he knows how ahead he is. He's even going to chase this down. He can go for a counterattack. Now, we do have one Immortal back at home, but an Immortal isn't going to do too well against Ling Bane. But Dark is going to back off. He's going to drone up, so The Immortal production that we're getting into, we have a second Immortal already coming out. This is going to help defend against a Roach counterattack, but we can see that Dark doesn't have any roaches. Like, he doesn't quite have any of that kind of production available. He does have an Evo Chamber to get into +1 melee. There we go. Melee is on the way, and Classic is transitioning into an Immortal drop. So again, Classic is going to try and distract Dark, get whatever value he can, and drone up behind this. Like, he is trying to saturate this third base. Oh, this follow-up is looking quite terrifying, though. The Adepts have arrived. Is Dark ready for this? Oh, the pre-split! The Banelings will not find any of their connections. But it may not even matter. We still have so many Lings, Banes, and Queens available. The Adepts do all go down. The transfuses are on point. The Immortals survive at least, but yeah, we don't have enough to break the defenses of Dark. Once again, that was a big investment into those Adepts. That was a lot of gas. I'm afraid to look. 28 Adepts have gone down. My god. But Classic has been able to saturate his third. You know, he's got his third base saturated. He has +1 on the way. Unfortunately, Classic is lacking something, and that is his next Twilight Council upgrade. He doesn't have Blink or Charge. He's still working off of pure Adepts, which doesn't scale well into the mid game. Like, because Classic has been morphing in so many Adepts, like, it's been delaying his upgrades, and there we go. Blink is now on the way. Now, Dark does have eyes on this fourth base. Now has map control. The Adepts haven't really been able to do too much. Classic can dive back in, so Dark has to be careful about that. But Dark is cutting workers here at 65. He's making Lings and Roaches. Testing the wall. Banelings are looking to waddle in. Dark does think better of it. Does pull back. He is going to go back into droning. Okay, so he's not going to go for a 66 drone all in. He's going to take an Evo Chamber. Oof. Working towards the Infestation Pit as well. This time it shouldn't be into Ultras, unfortunately. We are investing into Roaches. So not as greedy as last time. Yo, these Banelings have been on a journey. I don't know if you noticed, these are the same Banelings that were on the right-hand side of the map. They've rotated all the way over to the left just so they can waddle in. Here we go, the Lings are distracting the army in Classic. He does notice the Banelings. That could have been disastrous. The Banelings, they saw the world, papi. They saw all of Ancient Cistern, but alas, they don't achieve their dreams. They don't connect with the mineral line. Oh, feels bad, man. Classic is fighting his heart out here with these Adepts. Has been able to keep them alive for quite some time. As Dark is working towards that hive. Now, I would love this hive to be for Vipers, but we'll see. We'll see what Dark does go for. As we still have so many Adepts, my god. Looking to shade on in towards the third base, and they will not commit, thankfully. We'll back up. They will be keeping Dark busy back at home. Meanwhile, the Queen's also busy trying to deal with this pesky Prism and the other 4 Adepts that have been here since the mid-game, since the beginning of the mid-game, even the early game. Oh god! The flanking Queens almost get the Prism. Not quite, and now Dark is focusing on his assault, laying siege upon the fourth base. There is one shield battery. We've got a lot of Adepts, but the Banelings are rolling in! Off from behind! Oh, and every single Adept goes down. Oh my god. The Disruptors have arrived, and they should be able to force this back, but not before the Nexus goes down. Not just the Nexus, but also the Mineral Line. Nice splits towards the end there. Classic may have a terrifying army, but he no longer has that fourth. And Dark, he can back off, and he actually is going for the ultras. I was curious because we weren't really investing too heavily into roach production. We were still making a lot of lings. Looks like we were preserving that gas for a reason, and it is for ultras. Dark, he likes the ultras back. He likes. I like him too. I appreciate. You don't see enough of ultras nowadays. Like even with the buff, like even though they're smaller and thinner. Don't see them used up, and here we go. Darky's coming in from behind. Novas will go off on the roaches and ravagers. Good connections overall, but there's still so many lings. Oh, they got it. They get on top of so much. The immortals go down. The disruptors are next. The angle attack was just too good for Dark, and Dark is just not letting Classic get a single point in this game. We're not going to see the ultras. No, the Ultra Cavern is done, but we're not going to see them. Bailings, they roll on in. It looks like Classic will barely hold on, and there we go. The first Ultras are on the way. Let's go, Bobby. Let's go. Let them hit the field. Dark, calm down. Let them hit the field. As the Ling reinforcements are racing on forward. Oh, they get surrounds on these Stalkers. Surround on the Disruptor as well. Never will go up. But it's not going to be enough. And GG gets called just before the Ultras come out. And Dark will take the series 3-0. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Dark, as he's going to be this week's ESL Open Cup 178 Asia champion. Congratulations. A really dominant performance, to be honest. I was a little bit shocked. I was shocked by the vetoes specifically, because we had altitude, because we had Ancient Cistern, because we had these larger maps. It meant that even Classic himself couldn't be aggressive, and that's kind of where we saw him excel against both Solar and Ragnarok. But because those maps were taken away from him, or because we were forced onto these more open and larger maps, Dark, it was his playground. You know, we saw him just have his way, taking up to Hive Tech, getting up to 4 or 5 bases, getting into just mass Ling. Yeah, it's something you don't see too often in this matchup, but Dark can utilize it like no other. So GG, well played, very well done. On the one smaller map that we had, which was Babylon, that was when Dark went all in, if you remember. That's when he went for his own 2-base Roach Ling Queen all in. So he just never allowed Classic to get into his own game. I'm sure Classic would have loved to have asserted himself as well, but I just couldn't pull it off in the end. GG, well played. I guess talking about that last game a little bit, the 4-gate Glaive Adept from Classic, it was a little bit heartbreaking to see as well. Like, we saw it shut down almost immediately. It was scattered early on. Bailey Nest was thrown down, and the first wave of Adepts didn't do any damage at all. I think they killed like 1 or 2 drones, but the amount of Lings that we had available was insane. Just completely cleaned it up, and yeah, from that moment, it felt like Dark had a lot of momentum. It felt like he never let go of that momentum either. There was a follow-up double Immortal Adept push, if you remember, and there were a lot of Adepts as well, but that didn't do any damage either. Didn't do any economic damage is what I'm trying to say. And if you're investing into Adepts and if you're not doing any economic damage, then you're setting yourself behind, because we talked about it. Adepts, they don't scale well into late game. You know, Blinkstalkers and Chargelots can fare better there as well. Oof. GG. Pretty committed stuff. Committed stuff out of Classic. And with that, that is going to be the end of our first tournament for the day. I'm starving. I'm going to very quickly get some food. That is the end for ESL Open Cup Asia. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We are not done for the night, though, because we have another cast up next. I need to slip into some DMs. I need to figure out what's going on. Oh. Right after this, as I'm going to turn the stream off, we're going to be jumping into OSC King of the Hill. For the regulars in the chat, you should be familiar with that. OSC King of the Hill, of course, is a King of the Hill style format, best of ones. 15 players go in, and they duke it out for the King of that Hill, for who's going to be reigning over the kingdom, I guess, for the night. The event started 20 minutes ago, so we're a little bit late, but of course we did have to finish the broadcast. So we're going to be jumping in a little bit late, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We feature players like Dark, MaxPax, Spirit, Special, Mio Micah, Hon Mono, the best of the best from all around the world. So stay tuned, because we are going to be live with that tournament momentarily. But I will have to turn off the stream because I will have to change the delay. The delay for both these tournaments are different, so we will have to turn off the stream. But thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you so much for the support. We really do appreciate it, and I'll see you soon after this short break. If you like this tournament, it's a weekly ESL Open Cup Asia, here every week, Monday. CranKy, Ducklings, Twitter, Facebook, we're all over the place. Patreon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.